Hi everyone. Today we'll learn how to graphically represent the cumulative frequency distribution and we'll learn about the Ogive curve. So let's take a table. We have the distribution of marks and the number of students. So for a cumulative frequency distribution, the first thing we need to do is find the cumulative frequencies. So let's do that. Let's add a column, cumulative frequency, and let's one by one calculate the cumulative frequency. So for this class 0 to 10, it would be 5. Now next, the cumulative frequency would be considering both the classes. So here cumulative frequency would be 5 plus 3. So it would be 8. That's why it is said cumulative. We are accumulating frequencies. For the third class, it would be 5 plus 3 plus 4. So that's 12. And when you write down all the frequencies like this, we get 15 here because 12 plus 3 would be 15. 18 here because 15 plus 3 is 18. I'm doing 15 plus 3 as 15 itself is the summation of 3 plus 4 plus 3 plus 5. And similarly, the next cumulative frequencies we'll get would be 22, 22 plus 7, 29, 29 plus 9, 38, 38 plus 7, 45, and 45 plus 8, 53. Now, let's take some snippet of it and first understand what a cumulative frequency graph is. So let's take a snippet of it and let's talk about this data only. So when we say cumulative frequency, what do we mean by it? Let's take the first row as example. So when we are saying that 0 to 10, number of students are 5 and the cumulative frequency is 5, what we are saying is that the number of students who have got less than 10 marks is 5 students. And from this, a simple confusion can come that are we including 10 or not? We are saying less than 10 marks, but if we consider 10 here and here also, then we have two different values for the same 10, right? And that would lead to a discontinuity. And to handle this discontinuity, statisticians did a trick here. And what the trick is that when we are saying 0 to 10, let's talk about this class. So we have this class where this is 0 and this is 10. When we are saying 0 to 10, we're not including 10 in this class, but we're including everything in the boundary, in the vicinity of 10. So while we're not including 10, but anything that is even minutely less than 10 is in the boundary of 10 and we'll include it. So we'll be including the boundary of 10 and not the limit of 10. Whereas 0 doesn't face any such problem. So we'll include 0, right? And so all the numbers that I can take from 0 to 10 would be including 0 and all these numbers up till the boundary of 10, but not 10. And we write it in brackets form as square bracket 0, saying that I am including 0, comma, till 10, which says that it goes from 0 to 10, and then a open semicircle bracket, which says that this is the boundary of 10, and then not including 10. And how we say it as would be that we are considering all numbers that are greater than or equal to 0 and less than 10. So whenever we are talking about cumulative frequency, we are really linking it with the boundaries and not the limits. And that is a pointer that you need to remember. All right, so now this is clear. Now the confusion doesn't arise. So less than 10 marks would not include 10. So less than 10 marks would be 5 students. Now let's see, less than 20 marks. That means we are considering both these classes 0 to 12 and 10 to 20. And that would be 5 plus 3. Or we know that the cumulative frequency is 8, so we can just write 8 students. Then less than 30 marks would be all three classes 0 to 10, 10 to 20 and 20 to 30. Now we can add 5 plus 3 plus 4, but we've already done that in the formation of cumulative frequency. So we'll just take 12. So we have 12 students less than 30 marks. And less than 40 marks would be 15 students. And now if we have an idea to plot the cumulative frequency, this is it, because we can just take the points as 10 and 5. So this becomes 10 and 5, which means that less than 10 marks would be 5 students. And so this row becomes 20, 8, which means then less than 20 marks, we have 8 students. Similarly, this row would become 30, 12, and this row would be 40, 15. And note that we are talking about less than some certain marks. So when we're talking about a less than curve, the points that are created would be such that the y-axis would be of cumulative frequency and the x-axis. Note that we are here only considering the upper boundaries. So these are the upper boundaries of classes. So it is less than 10 marks, less than 20 marks, less than 30 marks, all of them upper boundaries. And so a point, a general formation would have x-axis as the upper boundaries of classes and the y-axis as cumulative frequency. And now let's get these points for all of the data. We just took a snippet, so we'll take the entire data and let's get our points. So here the upper boundary is 10 and the cumulative frequency is 5. So the point would be 10, 5. Here it would be 20, 8. So it's 20, 8. And similarly, for all of them, it would be 30, 12, 40, 15, 50, 18, 60, 22, 70, 29, 80, 38, 90, 45, and 100, 53. And that's all. Now we have the points, so we can easily plot it in a graph. So let's only take the points here. And let's take our graph. So we have a graph in which the x-axis is the marks class, because we saw 0 to 10 marks, 10 to 20 marks, the x-axis correspond to the marks, whereas the y-axis, it corresponds to the cumulative frequency. And now let's make these points. So a 10, 5 would be here. A 20, 8 would be 20 and 8 here. A 30, 12 would be here. 40, 15 would be here. 50, 18. And now let's plot all these points. So we have 60, 22, 70, 29, 80, 38, 90, 45, and 100, 53 right here. And now all we need to do is connect these points. So we'll take a line and we'll connect the points. And this is really what a distribution of cumulative frequency looks like. And there's an interesting shapes to curves like this. Because for one part, you can see if we draw it like this, it has kind of concavity to it, right? Whereas the other part, it is more bending like this. So it is somewhere like this and it would be convex. So in the same curve, we have both the concave and the convex. While in this graph, it is not very easily seen, but we can see the idea of it. And when a curve like this exists, where one part is concave and the other part is convex, we call it a S-shaped curve. Or we've given it another name, calling it ogive. It is written as Ogive, but it is pronounced as ogive. And this really comes from a 15th century architecture arch. And in those times, there were arches like this in which you can see this is our concave shape and this is our convex shape. And they used to call this ogive. And from that, we got the name as ogive, right? And since we constructed the cumulative frequency graph of less than, so we call this a less than ogive. And that is how you create a less than ogive. So the first question that really comes to mind is, so if we can create a less than ogive, is there also more than ogive that we can create? And let's look into it. Let's see our data again. So again, we'll take our data, we'll take a snippet of it, and let's talk about it. So we calculated that if we just take this class, this is less than 10 marks, then it would be less than 20 marks. Now for more than 10 marks, or actually we should start at 0. So for more than 0 marks, first we need to know that everyone here has gotten more than 0 marks. And so we need to first calculate the total number of observations. So that would be total students would be 15. And as you can see from the cumulative frequency here also. Now, if we write more than 0 marks, what we get is the entire table, the entire number of students. So we have the entire number of students. And so the number of students can be 5 plus 3 plus 4 plus 3. Or we've already did our cumulative frequency, so it's 15. So that would be 15 students. What about more than 10 marks? Now we're only considering these 3 classes. Now a simple method can be to count the number of students, 3 plus 4 plus 3. Or a better method could be that we already know the total number of students. We just have to subtract the number of students in this class. So we have 15 minus 5. So when we're talking about more than 10 marks, what we're doing is we're taking the total frequency or the total number of observations, minus cumulative frequency of the previous class. And this is equal to 10 students. Now for more than 20 marks, we see that we are only considering these two classes. So it can be 4 plus 3, or what we can write it as 15 minus the cumulative frequency of previous class. So that's 8. So that would be 7 students. And then lastly, more than 30 marks would be just this class. So it would be 3, or we can write it as 15 minus the cumulative frequency of previous class. So that's 12. So that's 3 students. And now we can follow the same approach. We can just make it into points to graphically construct. And so this would become 0, 15. This would be 10, 10. This would be 20, 7. And this would be 30, 3. Now note here, while in the less than curve, the x-axis, we took the upper boundaries. But here, when we're constructing a more than curve, we are taking the lower boundaries. This is 0, there is 10, there is 20, and there is 30, right? So for a more than curve, we'll have the x-axis with lower boundaries of class intervals, right? And now let's make these points for the entire table. So first, we'll take the total students as 53. So we have 53 here. Then one by one, we'll take the points. For more than 0 marks, we'll get that first we'll take the lower boundary. So that's 0, 53, because all of the students would have marks greater than 0. For marks more than 10, we'll take here 10, and it would be total number of students minus the cumulative frequency of the previous class. So it would be 10, 48, because 48 is 53 minus 5. And similarly, for more than 20 marks, we'll take the lower boundary 20, and the y-axis, the y term would be total observations, which is 53, minus the cumulative frequency of the previous class. So that is 20, 45. And in the same way, if we write all the points, we'll have 30, 41, 40, 38, 50, 35, 60, 31, 70, 24, 80, 15, and ultimately 90, 8. And you can cross verify because 8 plus 45 is 53. Similarly, 15 plus 38 is 53, right? So now let's just take the points and make our curve. So we have our points. Let's take our curve again. In the x-axis, we have marks class, and in the y-axis, we have the cumulative frequency. And now let's plot the points. So 0, 53 would be somewhere here. 10, 48 would be here. 20, 45 would be here. 30, 41 would be here. And so on. So 40, 38 would be here. 50, 35, 60, 31, 70, 24, 80, 15, and ultimately 90, 8. And now all we need to do is connect the points. So we have a curve like this. And now you can see the ogive curve clearly, because you can see this is our upward facing side and this is our downward facing side. So this is also a ogive. But here we are taking more than, so this becomes a more than ogive. So now we learned how to make a less than ogive and a more than ogive. And let's just have a quick recap for it. So a pointers to remember would be, whenever we're constructing a less than ogive, the points would be of the form that first in the x term we'll be taking the upper boundary of class, and in the y term we'll take the cumulative frequency of class. But when we're constructing a more than ogive, the points would be of the form, in the x term it would be lower boundary of class, whereas in the y term it would be the total number of observations or total frequency minus the cumulative frequency of previous class. And once we have the points for all of them, we can just simply construct the curve. So that's all about it. Thank you.